All right. Hello, everyone. This is Clement Aidana from the Aidana Creative Studios. Today is another wonderful day, and by popular request, we'll be doing a tutorial on the tools in Illustrator. So we want to know how each and every tool in the Illustrator works. All right. So I should put it this way: we would be how most of the tools work, particularly the ones that you will be using most often and designing whatever that we need to in Adobe Illustrator. So without much ado, let's dive straight into Illustrator. Alright, so we click on Illustrator and already we have a page set. This page here is what we call an artboard. That is the artboard for you, and this size is 16 by 9 is the screen size, obviously. So first off, before we start anything, these are the tools panel. This is a tool panel, sorry, and these are the various tools that Adobe Illustrator has that we can use when we are creating, when we want to get creative, you know that. So let's start. All right, so let's from the apex. So this, what we have here is called the selection tool. It's called the selection tool. So the selection tool, what it does is that if you have any object on this artboard or this working space with the white space, is the selection tool you use to move them around. So let's pick the rectangle tool and then draw something. Let's give it a fill color of, let's say, a red. I think that's cool. Okay, so watch as I work within this space. So now we have our selection tool, so we can hold, click and then hold on it and then drag. So realize that initially we had our rectangle at this position, but now we've moved to the right side. So basically that's what the selection tool does in Adobe Illustrator. If you want to use it, that is what it's basically used for, and most of the time that is what you'll be using. You'll be using that more often than any other tool in Illustrator. Now the next thing that we have will be the direct selection tool, and that is what is next to the selection tool, and this is it. Now if you should watch closely, you realize that there is a small triangle to the bottom right corner of the selected direct selection tool. Alright, so if you click on it, this right click, and then you see that there are other options to the direct selection tool that you can also use. So here we have the direct selection, we have the group selection tool, and we have the lasso tool as well. So these are all tools under the direct selection tools at your disposal that you can use when working in Illustrator. Alright, so the next thing we'll look at is the pen tool, and similarly it also has that rectangle. So we want to know what is there, and if you click, yes, you see the anchor point tool. So that is that. Now with the pen tool, it is used to create lines. So 2 points generate a line for you. So let's demonstrate. So you click on this rectangle and delete it and do a quick demonstration on that. Hold on. So okay, so back to our pen tool. So if I click here, you see there's a blue line moving with me, and I click there, press enter, and then we have a line created using the selection tool. But in this case, we realize that the line is a little bit slanted. Alright, so if we want the line to be straight, this is what we do. We are going to click again and then hold on shift. You realize that it's very straight now, and we move to the point we want and click again, and then we have a straight line. If we want to continue the line downwards, let's say we want to create a rectangle, so we hold shift again to give us that even straight line, click, and then we hold again, and automatically it generates the points for you and tell you where your next anchor point is, so that you can align it perfectly. So realize that there's a red sign showing. It tells us that at that point you are meeting at a vertical point with the other what is it called, the anchor point. So you can click here, which gives you a perfect rectangle. Well, a rectangle is perfect anyways. Alright, so when we're doing that, we had the fill coming in because the fill is on, so that's why the fill color was there. And here as well you can see the stroke is also on, which is black, so we also have stroke. But then if you don't want either the stroke or the fill, you just bring that up and then click on the none, the rectangle with the square with a red mark inside is the none. So you click and then you take the stroke off. Similarly, you can press on the fill one and do the same thing, and you realize that that one is also gone. So that is the essence of the none here, to take off what you don't need, whether it has to do with the fill or it has to do with the stroke as well. So the next thing we'll be looking at is the rectangle. So let's delete this one. Back to selection 2, we'll delete what we have there, and okay, so we'll pick a rectangle 2, and this is basically used to create shapes. Alright, so you want to create a rectangle, so we have a rectangle there of any shape that we desire. So these are some of the shapes we are creating with our rectangle. But then of course, if we want to get a perfect square out of this rectangle, that would mean that as we click, we hold on shift and then we drag, so it's giving us all sides and edges the same, everything will be the same. So with that, we get a perfect rectangle out of the shape that we draw using the rectangle tool. Then remember that with this also we have a small rectangle at the bottom left corner, which tells us that there are more to the rectangle too. And so let's click on that, right click to have a view of what is there. So here we have the ellipse tool. Let's go back to the selection to take everything off the artboard and then practice. So let's click again. This is the ellipse tool, so we can click and drag, and you see we have a nice ellipse here. And the same way, a perfect circle, you hold on shift and then click and drag, so it's giving us that perfect circle. But if you want it to be perfect and you want it to suit your own style the way you want it, you can just leave the shift key and then do what you do best with it. Next, again, we have the paintbrush tool, the pencil tool, and then the blot brush tool. Here the pencil tool you use to draw, so let's take this one off and then practice with the pencil tool. The pencil tool, we select that, and we want to draw, let's say, love. So this is it. It's not going to be perfect anyway, so this is about me. Okay, so we have our love there, and realize that it creates anchor points as you draw. So if you take the direct selection tool, you are going to see all the points that it has created. All right, and this gives you room to delete some of the anchor points. And for shortcuts, you have to just press minus, and you realize that the pen tool has changed, having a minus sign. So if you click on that, it's going to delete some of the excess that you don't want. If you click out of it, this is the response you are going to get. There's going to be a push up that will tell you that please use the delete anchor point tool on an anchor point of a part. Alright, so let's click OK and try and delete some off, so to see how the delete anchor point works. So the shortcut of that, once again, is just clicking on minus on your keyboard. Alright, so I think this is enough. We'll move to the next tool, which is the text tool. But before that, let's take off what we have here on our artboard. So the text tool also is used to write, the text that we want for every typography you want to put on your working space, That is a text tool that helps you do that. And so under that also you have on the bottom right with a rectangle on the bottom right, it tells you there are more. And if you go there, you see type on a path tool and a vertical type tool. So we are going to use, usually it's the type tool that you'll be using most often. So let's click and then open it up a bit. So hold on shift and then drag. All right, so we can write happy man. Okay, so that's what we have here now, happy man. Now we will try the other ones too. So we are going to use a type on part 2, but before that let's pick the pen tool. So P on your keyboard, click and drag. So you realize that the anchor point gives you the space of getting a straight line, and also the pencil gives you an option of getting a straight line and also curves. When you click and carefully drag, it gives you curves. So that is the space it gives you to work for your working for you working in Illustrator to also flow. So with this we can go in for a type on a part 2 and click on that. So realize that it has affected the line. So the line we created is what the text is now using. It's moving on the line. So let's write anything there. I am a happy man today. I guess I'm using too much of happy man, yes, because I'm happy today actually. So it's good to be happy though. If you're not happy yourself, nobody go happy you. So alright, so you're increasing the font size, and you'll notice that as we increase the font size, it takes up the shape of the line, and then the words moves to pick up that shape. And that is how the type on path works. The next thing that you'd normally use the eyedropper tool. Now eyedropper tool is used to pick colors from an object onto another. I hope you get this. So let's do the demonstration. So let's pick a rectangle 2. We have a rectangle 1, we have a rectangle 2, we have a rectangle 3. Now we want different colors for these ones. Let's draw another one inside here. We want different colors for all the rectangles that we have created. Now we have 4 rectangles. So to do that, we go for the eyedropper tool, shortcut with is I, and then come here, click, and we have a changes being effected to it. We click, select another rectangle and pick another color, and that has been affected. Going for that again, no, we want something that will give us a very good contrast, so let's go for a green. Yeah, this is okay. So you realize that we are now having let's align them. Okay, so realize that we are now having all our rectangles having different colors courtesy the eyedropper tool, and that is what the eyedropper tool does best. That is its purpose in Illustrator, for picking colors of your choice. Now next to it is the gradient tool, and one thing that you are observing now is that whenever I put my cursor onto any tool, it shows or it tells the name of the tool, and it gives the shortcut of it too. So you have to take that into account so that it helps you work faster in Illustrator. So when you get to have all the shortcuts in mind and you're working, it keeps your workflow very, very fast. So this also is the gradient tool, and what it does is, now we have a rectangle selected. I intentionally left this one there. If you double click on that, it's giving us an option here. Alright, so you realize that when I clicked here at the bottom right, it has affected the change to the rectangle. Now I can double click within this space, so realize that here we have a white fill and here we have a black fill. So if you double click here, it gives you the option to pick. These are the swatches, the preset colors that Illustrator gives you. So let's pick from the swatches any color of our choice. So let's click. We have that, and let's give this one to sea blue. Great. So let's expand our rectangle a bit by going for the selection tool and then dragging. So as at now, we have the gradient to location to 0%. So let's send to 100, and that gives you back a full blue. Let's send that back to 0, and you have the effect we created right over here. So here shows this sign means angle. Alright, so you want to place these colors at a particular point or angle, and to do that you click here and you select. So if you want a 90-degree, you realize that we have the color changing from the sides to leaving the horizontal space and then now taking up a vertical orientation. So that is good. Here you can change to, let's say, 120 negative, and you see the effect is giving. You're going to 120 positive, and that also gives you a different effect. So basically that is also what the gradient tool is used for. It's very useful when you're working with the gradient tool. Another most common tool that you would be using often is the hand tool, and it comes in handy. Alright, shortcuts being H, and it helps you move your artboard around. Okay, so with this you click to hold, and realize that when I click, the hand holds it as if it's holding something. You get me? So you hold, and then you now drag and move the artboard around and around and around. So basically that's what the hand tool does. And then also next to that we have the mesh tool as well. Under the gradient we have the mesh tool. So with the mesh, it gives you that free flow to add blends of colors to a shape you've created. Alright, so let's try that out. Let's send this back to blue and create a mesh around it. So we pick the mesh and then we click. You see that it's creating different anchor points within what you've created and a mesh. So all these boxes and these points are the mesh that it has created. Now to effect color changes to all these anchor points you have, you need to go for the direct selection tool and pick the point you want to affect the changes. So we pick point 1. If you want to add another point, you have to hold on shift and then click to pick it up. Good. Alright, so that's enough. Let's go for the eyedropper tool. So now you realize that we are using whatever that we've gone through from the beginning to apply to this particular example you're working on. So you pick a color from here, and voila, you realize that all the anchor points we clicked on and the color you've effected has appeared on that here on the work, and that looks pretty good. It's quite amazing. It's a nice effect though. Alright, so we can do same to the other points. So you go back by clicking on A on your keyboard, which means the direct selection tool, and then picking other colors as well. So, and this time around you'll be using the color yellow. So I on your keyboard, which means eyedropper, click on yellow, and you realize that you are having a blend of colors, and it's pretty good for your work. So if as a designer you want to get very good blend in terms of colors, or you're working on maybe a cartoon, you want to add colors to give you that blend that is so unique, trust me, you should go in for the gradient mesh tool. Now you can also affect other changes by clicking on the anchor point. So let's click on these anchor points by using the direct selection tool. You click here and then you drag out. You click here and you drag out. You click there and you drag out. you see what we are doing now is to kind of give us a 3D form and a 2D space, kind of. All right, so even though we have a flat 2D space, we want to create an illusion of a 3D within that space, and that's what we are doing. And the gradient mesh tool is the perfect tool that gives you that kind of feel. So realize that you have something that is that sort of looks like a 3D right now as we speak. So enough on the gradient mesh tool. We can now move or head straight to the Artboard tool. And you notice that as I click the tool, I have Artboard 1 here, which tells me, so let's zoom out, which tells me that I have only one artboard. Now if you want to create another artboard, we can come up here and click, and then it gives us artboard 2. And then also we can, same still on the artboard, we click outside of that and create our own shape of an artboard we want, so to the desired size we want. Again, I would want us to go for something out of our working space. Let's go look for an image. We're picking this bag here. Okay, so sorry, Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. Let's bring back our bag. You see, this bag has its own white space. If you want to conform the artboard to this white space and get that exact size to be that of our artboard, what we need to do is to click on artboard and click on this, and automatically it creates an artboard around the image. Now we go to the selection tool and we pick the bag out and realize that we have a new artboard. Alright, so if we pick the artboard tool again, it's going to tell us that this is a 4th artboard. So 04, this is the 4th artboard we have on our working space here right now. Okay, so that is how the artboard basically works in Adobe Illustrator. Now still at the hand tool, there's a small rectangle. If you click, the other option there is the zoom tool, and then it gives you that magnifying glass. You can click to zoom in, and then to look at your work when you're working. So that is the option it gives you when you are working with the zoom. So just pay attention. You see right now there's a plus with the inside of the magnifying glass. So if you click, you are zooming in. Once there's a minus, so it's decreasing the size. Alright, so you click again, and wherever you click, that is where you get to zoom in. So Control 0 will bring back our first working space. So basically these are the tools that you will be using most often when you're using Illustrator. Down here we have the various colors. So this shows you the colors you've chosen before. So this is a gradient fill, the previous color you've chosen. The yellow here tells us that it's a fill color we've used before, so or we've selected. And so if you are to create any shape right now, that is what the shape will conform to. So let's pick the rectangle tool and then create. You realize that it's the yellow that we have. Okay, and here we can toggle to change from either stroke or fill. So with the shortcut X, if you press X, just look at this space closely. If I press X, the fill has now gone underneath the stroke. If I press the same X, now the stroke is on top of the fill. And that is how you toggle, as you work, if you want to add an effect to the fill or the stroke. Also up here gives you an option. If you select a tool, it gives you options of the tool and what to use that for. So here we have our stroke. We can increase our stroke from this point, okay, and then we can decrease it again from this point. Now it is at uniform. You can decide to change it to this shape, and this is what it gives us. We can also give it that shape. So just play around, do something for yourself, happy yourself as you work. Make sure that you don't put too much pressure on yourself. So you can reduce opacity here and increase opacity as and when you want, and to suit the style that you are working with. So here too we have options that allows you to align your work. So realize that it was here when I clicked here, it is aligned to the center of the artboard. If I take this, it will align to the middle. So from bottom to the down and from the side to the side, everything is aligned directly to the middle. So this is another option that it gives you when you're working in Illustrator. So we're going to take this thing off. We don't need it idle. Alright, so here we have the swatches, and these are the preset colors that comes with Illustrator that you can choose from when you are working. Okay, and here you can use your color picker tool to pick from it any color you want to affect your shapes you created. It also gives you color guide. Right? So if you pick a color, it gives you the darks and shades of it, and then either the lighter and the darker sides of it. So whatever you need to know in Illustrator is here. So the alignment we spoke about up here is also here. Now usually or sometimes you may not get all these things here, so the best thing to do if you don't have these things here is to come to window, alright, and then you turn on your properties. So if you turn on properties, all these properties are going to show here. When you come here and you can't find your layers, you go back to window and put your layers on. So here we have our layers on. So these are our layers now. So whatever tool that you want, if you don't see it here on the space in your artboard or here at the working space, you just go to Windows and then you select from here to bring it back to the screen. If you take gradient is going to be here. So we have gradient here now. So basically that is how the Illustrator interface lights, like so plenty. Like Charlie, what this one I know if you do, but then if you put your mind to it, it's something that is very simple. Okay, so here we have file, edit, object type, select, effect, view, and window, and all these have options to create a new page. This way, and then work from this point. Edit gives you option to do a whole lot. Alright, so this is where we end our tutorials this time, and it's been nice having you on today's lesson on how to get to know the various tools in Illustrator and how they works. Basically, most of what we'll be using as you progress as a designer, coming up, or someone already is into the field. These are some of the tools that we normally use. So it'll be best if you get acquainted with the tools such that you'll be able to use them and use them very well. So if today is your first time watching this video, just please do well to hit on the like button, comment, and subscribe to this channel. Put on your post notification so that whenever we have any new videos come up, you'll be the first to get them, so that we can follow suit and learn and get to know more about Illustrator and what it has in store for us if you want to be good and great designers. Thank you very much for watching today's episode of Creative Studios by Clement Aidana, and until we come your way next time with another wonderful video to educate ourselves